Hello and welcome to this month's Enrichment Series Webinar. I'm your host, Amir Ganad. We're bringing you this webinar in a slightly different format in that our guest has prepared a video presentation that we're about to show you. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Mike Thomas. Mike is the Chief Innovation Officer at Upstream 360, a full-service Cincinnati-based global agency specializing in innovation strategy, creative content, and commercial production, bringing clear understanding to a complex world. Prior to joining Upstream, Mike spent 17 years working in beauty care at Procter Gamble across roles in R&D, product development, and marketing. A proven innovation leader and product strategist, Mike has returned some of the world's most recognizable brands to growth and recognized opportunities to grow existing brands to new spaces. A product researcher at heart, Mike has a deep understanding of the consumer and leverages these insights into winning product innovation opportunities. Mike is the author of Agents of Change, Unleashing the Innovation of Real-Life Superheroes. He's also a softball coach and, most importantly, husband to Lisa and father to Mara, Aaron, and Lana. Mike, thank you for preparing this presentation for us. And without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Mike.
Hi, and thank you for the opportunity to talk with the P&G Alumni Association. My name is Mike Thomas, and I spent over 17 years with P&G, all in beauty care. I grew up in R&D, mostly as a manager in products research, before spending a couple years in brand management. For the past 3.5 years, I've been the Chief Innovation Officer at a local creative agency, Upstream 360, that specializes in technical product communication for innovation strategies, creative development, and commercial production. In addition to my day job, I'm an aspiring author with one self-published innovation book, Agents of Change, and I spend most of my summers on ball diamonds coaching baseball and softball. My talk today is called A Tale of Business Innovation, Bring Clear Understanding to a Complex World. And the world is certainly feeling pretty complex right now. In this talk, I'm going to pull examples from my days at P&G, my experience as a softball coach, and my time helping to run a small agency to give some tips on enabling magical transformations. Whether growing a business, building a brand, or improving a product, it's critical to be able to sift through all the noise and extract what matters most, and then to build from those strengths. I hope the stories and techniques I share will bring out some key insights and focus to help you better drive innovation in your work and in your life. Now, before I dive into the heart of the talk, I want to share a video within a video that brings to life the philosophy of how I encourage teams to approach innovation in all walks of life. If the rest of my talk is the process for enabling magical transformations, then this Bring the Tiger story is the spirit, the dream of something amazing, and then to make the unreal real. My name is Mike Thomas. I'm the Director of Innovation at Upstream 360, and I'm going to tell you one of my favorite stories about innovation. It's about a guy named Joe Rohde, who was an Imagineer at Disney World, and he had an idea that he wanted to do a zoo and make it the best zoo in the world. So he went to the board of directors at Disney and said, guys, I have this amazing idea. Like, nobody does zoos very well, and Disney can do the best. Let's go make the best zoo in the world. And he expected a great response from the board, but the board kind of looked at each other. They looked around and said, you know what, Joe, I see you're excited, but zoos have been done. Like, everybody has a zoo. Disney creates magical experiences that nobody's seen before. So I appreciate the energy, but we're not going to do a zoo at this time. So Joe's a little frustrated. He realized maybe he should have brought a little more into the presentation. So he went back to his office, said, you know what, this next time I'm going to go in, I'm going to really wow them. So he came up with the data, presentations, bells and whistles, all the things you can imagine the Disney Imagineer would put together, went back into the boardroom and just wowed them with his presentation. And the board looked around, they were smiling. You could tell they were really enjoying it, but as they got to the end of the presentation, they said, you know what, Joe, again, it's great. Good data, and I can see why you're excited about it, but still, it's just a zoo, and Disney doesn't do a zoo. So he was more frustrated this time, and he went back to his office and was stumped as to how he was gonna bring this to life. And as he was going through how to do it the next time, he had an idea. This third time, he didn't bring any paper, he didn't bring a presentation, he didn't bring any data. He just brought a live tiger into the room. So as he walked into the boardroom, board members at first were terrified and thought, oh crap, we really should have listened to this guy the first time. But pretty soon that terror turned into wonder as they looked at this tiger and saw how the teeth and how big the teeth were, and they saw the muscles of this tiger move. And these board members, who were the serious button-up adults, turned into children. And then they smiled and just enjoyed this tiger in front of them. The board looked at Joe, they smiled and said, we get it now. All right, you can go off and you can make your zoo. And so Joe didn't go off and just make a zoo. He created an animal kingdom, and that animal kingdom is the largest zoo in the world today. So the lesson from all this, it's not enough just to have an idea, to have passion, to have data. Like, you have to make the unreal real. And so come up with your big idea, make a prototype, and make it real, and just bring the tiger into the room. I'm not sure how that story would work today with social distancing, much less with tigers, but you get the idea. For the rest of this talk, I'll quickly walk through the steps that I recommend in enabling magical transformations and bringing clear understanding to a complex world. The first step is to define amazing, then actionable, or first wow, then how. Next is to express that amazing goal in a magically intuitive expression. Third is to test and learn and see what works. Fourth, to sift through all the noise and simply simplify the complex. And the fifth and final step is to unveil that transformation to the world. Most important, of course, is the first step, to set the amazing goal that you set out to achieve. I like to say first amazing, then actionable, as a reminder to not become burdened with the challenges, obstacles, and realities too early in the process. There'll be a time for that, but it's far easier to take something amazing and make it actionable than to start with something actionable and make it amazing. I like this chart because it shows two different paths to successful innovation. While both can work in certain situations, all of my experience has shown that the majority of truly disruptive and breakthrough innovation is idea-led. Who needs it? What would truly wow them? And then, only then, how can I pull this off? As I go through this, I'm going to simultaneously use 3 case studies as I talk through each step along this journey. The first is from my P&G days in the introduction of Secret Clinical Strength, the antiperspirant category. At the time this project was envisioned, the Secret brand was declining, consumers believed that all products worked the same and weren't good enough, and competitors were winning by promoting secondary benefits like skincare, residue, and scent. Our amazing goal was to not just grow the business, but to do so by establishing Secret as the category gold standard for efficacy. The second case study is through the establishment of a 16U select softball team, the Blue Ash Bombers. I coached softball for years, but never at the highest levels. But almost exactly 1 year ago, I was coaching a group of girls who wanted to keep playing together, but knew that they had the potential for more. So we invented this new organization, recruited some more players, and registered for some tournaments. We knew it would be a long ride, but our amazing goal was to emerge as a championship caliber softball team. And finally, the third case study is around my current company, Upstream 360. I joined this company, founded by Neil Morris, over 3 years ago to help grow the business in new and exciting ways. Neil built a highly successful agency, largely centered on video production at P&G. Now, we love P&G, obviously, but knew that to keep growing, we would need to expand both our footprint as well as our offerings. So our amazing goal was to rapidly expand our business beyond P&G production in just 1 year. Again, I know it may seem obvious, but it's a step that is often overlooked or watered down. First, define what is amazing, and only then what is actionable. Once amazing is defined, the next step is to figure out how to bring a magical transformation to life. For this step, I created an approach at Upstream that we call magically intuitive expressions. Grounded in the idea of a magic trick, this is an iterative way to inspirationally and concisely express the amazing challenge and how to magically resolve it. Each magic trick, and thus each magically intuitive expression, is broken into 3 parts. First is the pledge, the current ordinary state of a situation. In terms of a magic trick, imagine a magician on stage holding a bird cage with a single bird perched within. Fairly ordinary. Next is the turn. Transform that ordinary something into something extraordinary. Again, back to the magic trick, this could be covering the bird cage with a cloak, heightening the intrigue of what could happen next. And the third and final step is known as the prestige, the final reveal or amazing result that this transformation enables. And ideally, within this reveal, there's some sort of surprising twist. So back to the magic trick. The cloak is dramatically removed to reveal the transformation. Now, while you might expect the bird to have disappeared, what if instead the cage has disappeared and not 1 but 3 birds fly away? A transformation with a twist. So the trick of writing a magically intuitive expression starts with a pledge. Not an insight, but a given, an accepted fact. It should go without saying. The turn then challenges that given, delivering an element of surprise to set the stage for the magical transformation. And the prestige then verbally and visually completes the wow, the proof that unveils the result of the new reality. And the final step in expressing the magic is to write it as a 6-word story. Find a way, in no more than 6 words, to communicate all elements of the magical story. This is based on a tale about Ernest Hemingway, who was, as the story goes, having drinks with some fellow authors where a bet was made as to how many words were necessary to tell a complete story. Hemingway boldly proclaimed that he could tell an emotional story in 6 words. The other authors, of course, took the bait. On a napkin, Hemingway wrote, "For sale, baby shoes, never worn." His fellow authors were moved to tears, and then moved to buy their friends some drinks. Visually inspired, but verbally expressed. Short but not too short, concise but the complete story. Again, this is a highly iterative process, and I'll share some examples for our 3 case studies. For Secret, the pledge was that consumers had given up hope because all products work the same and are not good enough. The turn is that actually there are prescription products out there that work far better. They're just unavailable or unattractive. The Prestige says, what if you could get prescription strength protection, not just without trade-offs, but without a prescription? The 6-word story, prescription strength performance without a prescription. For the Blue Ash Bombers, the pledge is that starting a new select softball team from the ground up will be an extremely humbling experience. The turn is that we'll work on all the little things to show that we belong at this level, and maybe even win a couple games. The Prestige, what if we start excelling at the big things and rise from the dirt as tournament champions before this season ends? The 6-word story with a double meaning, winning starts from the dirt up. And for Upstream 360, the pledge. All of our eggs are in one basket, and the majority of our work is based in production with P&G. The turn, with so many P&G alumni out making their mark at other companies, can we leverage past clients who've gone on to new organizations? And the Prestige, can we not only use our P&G connections to get our foot in the door at these new companies, but also broaden our strategic positioning with these organizations that don't know our history? With the 6-word story again having a double entendre with, take our show on the road. So again, first define amazing, and then work to understand the magical transformation and express that transformation as a 6-word story. I could do a whole presentation solely on this test and learn section, but for this talk I'll just scratch the surface. The gist is that once the hypotheses are formed, test them, but don't necessarily overthink it. There's a time for surveys and quantitative data, real numbers, and there always will be, particularly when it comes to qualifying decisions with big financial and strategic implications. And there are all levels of robustness, complexity, and cost for use at the right times. My push, particularly on these magical transformations, is to prioritize non-cognitive research over cognitive, gut over brain, visual over verbal. It's hard to enunciate the magic that we experience in life, and even harder to enunciate the magic we yearn to experience. If we ask our consumers, or even ourselves what we want, our logical brains will often instead default to what we need. In a cognitive process, we start with a need, then research and process data, screen alternatives, make logical decisions, and then ultimately analyze the tangible pros and cons of that decision. Non-cognitively, however, we start with an unconscious desire, react with our guts, yearn for delight more so than performance, work to satisfy an impulse, and are seeking memories or even fearing deprivation rather than simply weighing pros and cons. There are dozens of approaches and tons of science behind this approach, but at the heart of it, we try to get pre-verbal instinctive response. For example, if we give a product to a consumer and she loves it, instead of asking her why, we ask her to pick images that represent her story of the product experience. As the research team collects these images from a variety of consumers, several analysis techniques can be used to get the moment of wow, and not just the logical why. Another technique is simply using poker chips and having consumers, or the team, or yourself even, place bets on what wows and what doesn't. A little more cognitive, but still gets more at what you love versus what you think you should think. Again, the essence of magic comes from the heart and gut, more so than the mind. And beyond these techniques, there's a lot to be learned just by observing. When our eyes light up, even if we don't know why, there's something magical happening. Observe it, capture it, harness it. Again, test your hypotheses, but don't overthink them. For Secret, non-cognitive learning showed that the wow of the product came from the release of fragrance during high-stress situations. Cues of confidence actually trumped true clinical efficacy. For the Bombers, our coaching staff observed that when our shortstop made a great play, she would yell, "Eat 'em up!" and gesture she was shoveling food into her mouth. I have no idea why, but it seemed to work. The whole team responded with more swagger, so we made it our thing. Every team meeting, every good play, and even our practice shirts proclaimed, "Eat 'em up," and our defense got notably better. And with Upstream, we did some non-cognitive exercises with our own team and with some of our happy clients, and the theme of being a bridge consistently came up. A bridge between technical and commercial teams, between science and advertising, and between data and story. Overall, the testing and learning is important to not just confirm the hypotheses of the magically intuitive expressions, but to identify the distinct moments of magic. And it's important to do this non-cognitively from the gut, at least as much as cognitively from the brain. Once the magical stories and moments have been defined and tested, they should be run through the filter to determine if the complex has truly been simplified, that the magic has been defined, and that you are on the path to amazing. Does the expression unlock a moment of wow and deliver magic from the mundane? Is the language and the imagery not only arresting and surprising, but also never been seen before? Is it surprisingly obvious, both easily understood, but also rich with an element of surprise? Does the context, the story, the imagery fit the brand and category, while also being unique, ownable, and on equity? Does it communicate superiority? Side by side, superlative, torture test, does the goal, the plan, and the execution communicate superiority? These lenses will let you know that you've got it. For Secret, we chose to execute this vision by creating a clinical strength category. Changing the claims of the category, the established price norms, the architecture on shelf, by putting it in a box, we established a surprisingly obvious, superior, and magical proposition that completely changed the category. For the Blue Ash Bombers, once we started to eat them up, we began striving to achieve big things and not just little things, to succeed more than to just belong, to create a one-of-a-kind culture, winning through confidence more than just winning through technique. And for Upstream 360, our entire focus has gone into bringing clear understanding to a complex world. We uniquely bridge that gap between science and marketing. All of our communication focuses on making complex mechanisms, technologies, and processes more easily understood. Internally, we focus on growing through taking our P&G show on the road, first to P&G alumni who know how we operate. Define amazing goals, bring the tiger, magical results. The final step is to live the results and just enjoy the magic show. For Secret, not only did Secret Clinical Strength launch and reestablish Secret as the efficacy brand, we created and led a billion-dollar category. The Blue Ash Bombers didn't just start playing better and win a couple games. We outright won our season-ending tournament and rose all the way from the dirt to be tournament champions. And Upstream 360 didn't just further expand outside Cincinnati, but grew that business by more than 5 times in just a year, while still growing the core. None of this is rocket science, and not everything I shared is applicable to all situations. But the idea of first defining what is amazing and then what's actionable, next finding a magically intuitive expression, testing and learning, simplifying the complex, and then unveiling the results, has the potential to not just transform a business or organization, but also to enable a magical experience that will be felt and remembered. I hope that you found this talk helpful and at least found some nuggets to take away. It was my pleasure to share this with you all, and I'm proud to be part of the P&G Alumni Association. Thank you, and always remember to keep searching for magic and bring the tiger into the room.
I'd like to once again thank Mike Thomas for presenting this valuable information for us today. Now, we would like you to get involved with the P&G Alumni Organization. You can sign up for updates at pgalums.com. You can support the foundation. Go to pgalumnifoundation.org to find out what opportunities there are, or you could partner with us by writing us at sponsor@pgalums.com. You can also volunteer, start or join a chapter, or let us know if you have any other thoughts by sending us a message to hello@pgalums.com. I'd like to invite you to join us on our next webinar when Betsy Bluestone is going to present to us on building P&G's next billion-dollar brands. So we hope to see you on September 8th at 9 a.m. Eastern. Thank you. This is Amir Ganad, your host, and I wish you the very best.